How are you guys? Oh, Lord, I should have had this done before I got online. How are you guys doing? Oh my God, I'm super excited to be on here tonight with your beautiful faces. Finally, I think I got the camera right. Okay, hold up. Having some technical difficulties here. This is my first YouTube live. Lord, I can't believe this is my first YouTube live, but we're going to talk about some good stuff. So I'm just waiting for everybody to come on in and join your sister tonight on this real talk live tonight. I'm having some tea. So while I'm waiting for you guys to get on, I am looking forward to everything. So anywho, um, tonight we're going to be talking about. So on my Facebook page, there is I have over 62,000 beautiful new family members slash, or some people may call them followers, but I call them family members. They've been rocking with me. I have been on my weight loss journey, and it's been 6 months, and I'm 86 pounds down, honey. Woo! It seems like a little, but OMG, it's a lot. Okay. So anywho, I'm so excited. So a lot of my new family members wanted to know where I came from, like what got me to this point. Like, so I have a whole testimony that I'm excited to share with you guys. I always talk about bits and pieces of everything, but I was like, let's set up a date where we can come and we can chat about everything. So if you are triggered by sexual abuse, if you are triggered by domestic violence, if you are triggered by attempted suicide or suicide in general, if you are, triggered by anything like that, tread lightly when you're coming on here tonight, because we're going to be talking about some deep stuff. We're going to laugh a couple times, but we may also cry a couple times. So, I just wanted to let you guys in on that, so that it's up to you if you want to, if you wanted to join in or not. So, give you talking. Let's get started. I don't really see anybody on here just yet, so I guess I'll be talking to myself, and prayerfully people start coming on. Hopefully it's not restricted. I don't think it is. Oh, so it's fine. All right, so first I'm going to start from the beginning. My name is B.T.Clarke, professionally known as B.T.Clarke. That is my author's name. So I am a published book author slash screenplay writer. My latest book is called Love on the Verge, The Ultimate Betrayal. It's suspense, it's wild, it's a roller coaster ride. It will have you on the edge of your seat. The whole book, okay? You will
emotional damage.
you will not know what's happening, where it's coming from. You be like, what? But anyway, and I've written about 4 good screenplays lately, and I'm super excited about them. I'm in the middle of negotiating selling one, so yay. So you guys be praying and wishing me good vibes on that one. It's a action movie, and the lady is the heroine of the movie. Of course, I had to make it like that, we need some good gals out here in the world. So anyway, I wanted to talk about starting from when I was little. When I was 10 years old, I was kind of a quiet young lady. Didn't have much going on. I just liked to be around family, be around people, and I was called a pest. That's what I remember. Oh my God, you're such a pest. Leave me alone. Get away from me. And I'm like, okay. So, and it's one of those things where, as adults, not just parents, but like aunties, uncles, cousins, what have you, grandparents, godparents, you have to be careful with how we treat our children, because they will remember those things, and when they grow up, it'll be a part of their testimony and how, they've overcome certain things. And so that's kind of where I am right now. I remember certain things, and I'm like, okay, that happened. All right. So anywho, when I was 10 years old, I had a play uncle. Yeah, I'm gonna jump right in. We just gonna dive right in, okay? No cutting corners. I had a play uncle. My mom had a best friend, and her brother, and all of them were best friends. Were really good friends, and he had just gotten out of jail. Yeah, and he came over my house one night. When he got the night he got out of jail, and he said, and I quote, he was like, "Oh my gosh, your family's so beautiful. I can't believe, I'm out. I get to witness you guys. I get to see you guys, blah, blah, blah." So him and my mom sat in the living room and they had a conversation. They were catching up and, reminiscing about old times and things like that. And my mom was like, "Hey, let me introduce you to your uncle such and such, or what have you." And I was like, "Okay, this is, oh my gosh, that's little Brandy. Wow, she's gotten so big. She's so grown up." And I'm like, at the time, I didn't think about it. I didn't think about that being a weird choice of words for a 10-year-old. She's so grown up, and I'm like, how? I haven't even started talking yet. I haven't even opened my mouth to say anything yet. So as an adult thinking back, I'm like, okay, I get it. Anywho, long story short, my sister had just had a baby. She was 15. She had just had her first baby, and she wanted to go to her boyfriend's house. So she asked our play uncle to bring her to her boyfriend's house, and he said sure. So of course he was like, "Brandy, you want to come?" And I'm like, "Mom, can I go?" She's like, "Go ahead." Wait, let's fast forward. Let's go back a little bit, backtrack. As my mom and uncle was talking, uncle was talking, um, he was like, "Hey, come sit on my lap." Huh. Big red flag. Don't ever let your kids sit on a grown man's lap. I don't care who they are. Unless they're their dad and you trust them, But not uncles, not cousins. Like, be careful with who you let your kids around, who you let your daughters, who's developing butt and boob, to sit on a man's lap, okay? Because yeah, that was a red flag right there. But my mom was like, that's your uncle. It's all good. Mind you, he was my play uncle, by the way, who had just gotten out of prison. Yeah. And he's been there for a while. He was there for a while. Anyway, so he said, my mom was like, "It's okay. Go ahead and sit on his lap. It's fine." So I sat on his lap or whatever. He just caressing my thigh. Mama didn't see that, but that's okay. It's not her fault. So he brought my sister to her, he brought my sister to, he packed all of us into the van, and he drove to my sister's boyfriend's house. Nobody was home, so my sister asked him to take her to a payphone, and he took her to the, "Hello, whoever just came in, how are you?" He took her to the nearby payphone, and when she got out of the car, the baby was crying, and he said, "Brandy, jump up front." He was like, "The baby's crying. I need you to hold her." I said, "Okay." And I jumped up front and sat in a passenger seat. And I was holding the baby while my sister was on the payphone outside. And I'm watching my sister, but I'm also watching the baby. So he looks over and he says, "Oh, your pants is unzipped." Mind you, I'm a 10-year-old girl, young girl, and this man had to be in his 40s at the time. And I was like, okay. And your mom, your parents teach you the good touch and the bad touch, right? That was definitely a bad touch. Okay. Definitely a bad touch. So anyway, he was like, "Your pants is unzipped." So I'm thinking, because I'm holding the baby with both hands, I'm a little girl, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm just holding the baby. I'm thinking the man was going to zip my pants back up. No, he did not, honey. He didn't zip my pants back up. Instead, he went into my pants and was fondling me. Yes, he was. Woo! I can't believe I just said that. It's so crazy because I didn't really talk about that much. I never been this open about it before. My God. All right. So he was fondling me. And I'm holding a baby and I'm struggling. I'm just like, what the heck is happening right now? And I'm remembering the bad touch, not the good touch. And so my sister, I was begging in my head for my sister to come back to the car, to the van. I said, please come back, please come back, please come back. And in my head, I'm begging her to get back to this darn car right now. So she took a few more minutes and he just kept going. And I'm just like, you know, didn't want to drop the baby, didn't want to get in trouble, anything. I was just like, okay, okay, you know, in my head. So my sister's walking back to the van. It was a red van. I would never forget it. Ever forget it. It was a red van and it had all kind of stuff in the back, you know, like he had just moved in. But mind you, he had just gotten out of prison. So anywho, long story short, my sister got back in the car and she said, hey, what you doing up here? I said, well, the baby was crying. Oh, no, I'm sorry. He said the baby was crying, so I wanted her to jump up front to hold the baby instead of him holding the baby, you know, because he was up to no good. And so my sister was like, oh, okay. So she got in the back. I mean, she got her baby back, put him in the car, put the baby in the car seat, and I got back to the back. As we were driving to my sister's boyfriend's house, he was looking at me in the rearview mirror, and I was fidgety. I was, you know, playing with my fingers, my hands, and the whole time I was shaking like this. And I kept in my head, I was telling my sister in my head, please don't go, please don't leave me, please stay. Please don't go, please don't leave me, please stay. And I did not say anything out of my mouth. I didn't. And so anyway, we dropped my sister off at her boyfriend's house. And when she got out the car, he said, Brandy, get in the front. I said, I don't want to, I'm fine, I'm okay back here. And he said, no, get in the front, like now, you know, very aggressive. So I got in the front. I did. And we stopped off. And he just had fun with me. It wasn't, he didn't rape me. But, you know, he sexually assaulted me. And as a 10-year-old girl, those are things you never forget. So anyway, long story short, I was a mess. I was a wreck. He drove us home, and my mom, I didn't speak to my mom or I didn't speak to anybody. I just ran straight to the bathroom. I wiped myself. I was hurting. It was crazy. I was just in pain. And I looked in the mirror as a 10-year-old girl, and I started crying. I broke down. I was bawling. The inside of me was burning up, right? And my brother knocked on the door. And he said, why are you crying? What's wrong? Like, you know, the big brother, what's wrong with you? And I was like, nothing, I'm okay. He's like, no, you crying. I'm going to tell mama. I was like, no, I'll tell you. He's like, what? So I told him what happened. He still went and told mama. This me, Brandy me, is like, yes, that's right. Go tell mama. But back then I was like, no, don't do that. I don't want to get in trouble. But because I felt like I did something wrong. Like I let it happen, so it was my fault. So I didn't want to tell. I was scared. I was going to get in trouble. So anyway, my brother did tell my mom. My mom called me. She's like, what happened? She's like, don't tell me this happened, blah, 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 blah. My mom went off. Like, my mom had 8 children. I was the youngest. She didn't play about her babies, okay? No matter what happened in our lives, no matter how she dealt with things, she didn't play about her babies, okay? So anyway, my brother told my mom that my play uncle had just sexually abused me. And she held me. She called him and told him to come over. She didn't tell him why. She called him and told him to come over the next day. He came over. He was like, hey, Paulette, what's up? You know, what's going on? Like nothing ever happened. Like, he didn't do nothing, honey. And my mama was like, come here. She was like, did you touch my baby? Like that. And he was like, what? No, Paulette, no. I would never do nothing like that to my niece. My mom was like, did you touch my child? Like that. And he was like, no. Did I touch you? Me? You guys would have got mad at me. I was a kid, man. I was scared. I was freaking out. Everything was shaking. But I remember it like it was yesterday. My mom said, he said, did I touch you? And I was like, no, he didn't. My mom was like, did he touch you? And I was like, no. And he said, see, Paulette, I didn't do nothing to her. I didn't touch her. My mom was like, and looked at me like, now, I'm going to tell you right now, that was a very tough position to be in for a 10-year-old child. I was feeling pure hell and guilt. It was boiling up inside of me. I was so scared. I was so nervous. I didn't know what to do. Okay? So he left the house, and my mama said, "Come here." She said, "Did he touch you? Did he do the things?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Yes, ma'am." And I fell into my mom's arms and I cried I cried like a child, a 10-year-old baby. I cried. My mom held me so tight. She was so pissed off, but he had disappeared. So there was nothing we could do about it. It was just awful. And I did not seek therapy for that, um, because I'm going to be real. Um, in the black community is one of those things where therapy is what has always been frowned upon. You're not crazy. We don't do that, type of thing. I mean, it's changed. It's changed nowadays, but in the community, it's like black people don't seek therapy. We just go to the Lord and we pray and go to church, and that's it. That's what we know. Of course, we believe God and know that He's able to fix that. I'm sorry, I'm trying to fix my hair and fix things. I believe in Jesus, but He also gives you the wisdom to get help, right? So anyway, so I didn't seek therapy. My mom didn't, know anything about getting therapy for a child who's been through sexual abuse or anything like that. So we just lived with it. It was one of those things where we just lived with it. So what ended up happening is I became shut in. I became a self-conscious child. I had to teach myself how to love me. And it was a long, long journey up into my adulthood. And those things that happened to me carried over and over with every new birthday, with every new age. It carried, okay? And so a couple months later, we found out that he got stabbed. His girlfriend stabbed him because he raped her son and her daughter. So it was horrible that happened, that had to happen to those children. But in some way, it got a little bit of justice for me because he got what he deserved, if that makes sense. I never wish bad on anybody, nobody. But people who hurt children intentionally, listen, there is a place. There is definitely a place. So he ended up in prison, and he actually got out of prison 2 years ago. Yeah, he did. And the crazy part is, this is the part that I'm going to tell you about that I never really speak about. When I got my first apartment, I was afraid to live there. I was afraid to sleep there. And I had a fiance at the time, and I would beg him to come and stay with me every night because I developed really bad insomnia. Tell me how things don't cross over into into your adulthood. Listen, this thing it carried some weight, and it followed me. And I developed insomnia, and I couldn't sleep unless somebody was there with me, because I'd have nightmares and I'd wake up in cold sweats, like I'd be dying, like what's happening to me? I don't know what to do. Help me figure this out, So, so anywho, that's what happened, and it actually set the foundation for a lot of things that went wrong in my life. And it created trust issues. It created body image issues. It created eating disorders. It created self-hate. It created depression. It created anxiety. So that I started there because it sat the foundation at such a young age. It sat the foundation for a lot of things that happened in my life. Okay. So anywho, anybody who just joined in, hey guys, welcome, welcome, welcome. I think you can talk live, chat live if you'd like. You can say hey to me. I would love to know who's here, so that I can love on you and acknowledge you. So long story short, I started in elementary school. After that, I started getting bullied. I got bullied a lot. At the time, my mom was raising 8 children, or some of them were adults, but still raising children, and she was doing her best as a single mother. And we didn't have a lot. She worked. She did what she could. We didn't have a lot, so sometimes we'd have to wear the same clothes the next day, and sometimes the clothes would have stains on them. Sometimes they wouldn't be as clean as you'd like them to be. And so I remember this in the third grade. My teacher, she was like, it was Christmas, and she was like, oh, everybody exchange, sorry, my eyelash got in my eye. Everybody exchanged gifts, blah, blah, blah. So I brought a re-gift. I brought a Walkman, it was really popular back then. I brought a Walkman to change with somebody, and they gave me a sweater. And I was like, oh, I love this sweater. So my teacher called me up to the front of the class, and she gave me a sponge. Those little net kits that you give people? It had a sponge. It had soap. I'll never forget this soap. It's called Lever 2000. It's a very popular soap in New Orleans. And that's where I'm from, by the way. Very popular soap in New Orleans. And she gave me that. And she gave me the little, I forgot what they call it. It's like the little thing on a rope. It's like a sponge type of thing. Where, it's scratchy. She gave me that. And she told me in front of the whole class to go home and use it. She did. And after that, I was bullied and beaten so much by children. I was beaten, thrown down the stairs, beaten by boys after school, before school, during school. I was jumped by girls, many of them, 5 at a time sometimes. It was interesting. They used to call me dirty. They used to call me, filthy, just names that weren't very pleasing from children. So anywho, so after that, my mom, she got addicted to drugs, and sometimes I was the youngest at the time, so I was the clingy one, and sometimes she would leave days, sometimes a week at a time, and I wouldn't see her, and I'd be like done. I'd be crying for her, because my mom was my life. She was my heart. And so when she got addicted to drugs, excuse my language. Excuse me. When she got addicted to drugs, it was very hard. Very hard. I would be with my sisters. They had their own homes and their own children to take care of. And, I was just an extra mouth to feed and things like that. So my mom ended up getting help. She ended up going to rehab. Because she ended up in the hospital. Her diabetes, while she was on drugs, had gotten so bad that she ended up in the hospital. After she left the hospital, she ended up in rehab. When she left the rehab, she made a choice. And she said, I don't want to be on drugs anymore. She said, I want a life for me and my babies. At the time, it was me and my brother. My brother was 16. And my brother was 16 and I was 14. And my brother decided that he wanted to stay with our dad. He didn't want to come at the time. So my uncle, my sister, my brother, one of my older sisters, her husband, my brother-in-law, me and my niece, we ended up moving with my mom to Virginia. My mom said she wanted a better life for us. And so when we got to Virginia, it was me, my mom, and my niece. And everything was tough at the beginning, but we made our way. We got our own place. My mom found a great job. I don't know how she did. It was by the grace of God that she was able to kick drugs just like that, because there's so many people who don't, who are not able to that easily. They relapse and relapse, but she did not relapse at all. It's starting, y'all. I'm sorry. It was like her third time being on drugs. And so when we got here to Virginia, my mom did great. She was good. Everything was great. And then my mom fell in love with a coworker, and at the time he was on drugs, which was crazy because she wasn't on drugs anymore, but he was on drugs at the time. And my mom and going in the room and things like that, when she wasn't home, when she was at work, we would smell like the crack, like burning and things like, the smell was awful. As children, we're like, woo! At this time, I was 13, 14 years old. and 13 going on 14. And she was like, we started going to church. We found a great church home here, and I joined the praise dance ministry. That's where my dancing started way before that, but that's when I really started getting into just like dancing and just trusting in God and believing. I was baptized when I was 8 years old, so I already knew about the Lord. It was just one of those things where I had to really find Him for myself, you know. But anyway, my mom fell in love with the man who was on drugs. She never relapsed, even with him. And she told him, she said, I'm tired. She said, I need you to change. She said, if you want to be with me, if you want to marry me, she was like, you will do everything you have to do to get off drugs, to get off the alcohol. He was a drug addict and an alcoholic. And he loved her enough to do that. And he got the help that he needed. He went to AA. He did his 12-step program. He got help with the drug addiction. And things were looking up. Him and my mom got married. And my mom her life just changed for the better. Okay? Now I'm a teenager and I'm still going, I'm sorry y'all, my thing is still in my eye. I'm a teenager and I'm still going through these things, guys. Still going through these crazy things that happened to me and things like that. And my brother, the 16-year-old, he came up here to Virginia from New Orleans because he had wrecked my dad's car and he got scared and he was like, Mommy, I want to come to you. And he ran. He came to Virginia, and my mom, she put us in school, and we were doing great. We were doing really well. And my brother made many friends. He was in the 9th grade. He had many, like, all the people loved him. He was so popular. I mean, I couldn't believe a 9th grader was so darn popular with all the kids, all doggone ages, all grade levels. And my mom, I remember it was a Saturday, and my brother, he said he was so happy. He was like, Mom, I'm going to go to the park. And he was like, I'm going to go to the park and enjoy time with my friends, blah, blah, blah. He had a best friend named David. And my brother was at his girlfriend's house. It was him, his girlfriend, her friend, and her little sister sitting on the porch. And a stranger walked up and started shooting. My brother pushed his friend and the little girl in the house. And he was shot multiple times. He died on the scene. But the crazy ironic part is that it was mistaken identity. He wasn't looking for my brother. He was looking for my brother's best friend.
Emotional damage.
Isn't that weird how that came up while I'm crying? What the heck? It was my my message tone, but they were looking for his best friend, and my brother took bullets for his best friend. And he was killed at the age of 16. And the news people was calling him a hero, 16-year-old hero, because he saved his girlfriend and the 2 other young ladies. And honestly, it didn't mean much to us for him to be called a hero. We just wanted him here with us. But justice was served. They did find the guy, and he ended up in jail. But the ironic part that I was talking to you guys about was the fact that 10 years before that,
Emotional damage.
man, 10 years before that, my 20-year-old brother was murdered the exact same way in New Orleans. He was killed in New Orleans, and my 16-year-old brother was killed here in Virginia. And my 20-year-old brother was leaving his girlfriend's house, walking down the stairs. As he exited the gate, a van drove up and started shooting him. They shot him up. And the girlfriend was standing on the porch screaming. And she heard one of the guys walk up to him and say, "We shot the wrong dude." The weird, crazy, ironic part is that it was mistaken identity again. And the weirdest part is, he was looking for his friend who looked just like him. And I could not believe the craziness, like the similarities in everything. Two different states, 10 years apart, girlfriend's porch. I mean, it was crazy. Mistaken identity, looking for friends. I'm like, what the heck? And yeah, it happened. So my mom had 8 children. 2 of them are deceased. They were murdered, gunned down in the street like dogs. And it was very tough on all of us, but it was very tough on me emotionally. My 16-year-old brother and I were close in age, and so we were still at home, so we were close. Sorry. So anyway, at his funeral, it was packed. You saw nothing but young people. I mean, there were no sitting room, no seats available. I mean, the church was packed from the pulpit on out to the door. People could barely get in. And that blessed my heart, and it made us feel a little bit better because he touched so many lives while he was here. That really made a difference for us. So yeah, that's that part. So I'm telling you guys certain things because it played a part in a lot of my life experiences and decisions and things like that. So anywho, that was very emotional. But as I grew a little bit older, I turned 15. I went to high school. I started high school, and I had to my first year I had to leave because I was getting beaten a lot. I was quiet. I was set back. I didn't talk to anybody. I was like, there was one friend that I had that I would walk around the halls with while we're going to class and things like that. And she, she had my back to a certain point, but I was bullied. I was picked on. They called me ugly. They called me all kind of things. I was like treated like a dog. Like they threw cans at me, threw food at me. They would pull my hair. It was crazy. So my mom switched schools. I switched schools this was a really bad school. Everybody fought every day. So my mom went ahead and she switched me to a better high school. I did good my 10th grade year, and the end of my 10th grade year, I started getting bullied again. This time by older girls. And they would walk down the hall, literally skip class to walk down the halls in my high school behind me and say taunting things about me, about how I looked, about how I dressed, about what I had on, about my weight, about things like that. And I used to eat my lunch and things in the school stalls, the bathrooms, because I was afraid. I didn't want to see anybody. I didn't want anybody to see me. I was so scared. I didn't know what to do. But in the midst of all of that, I used to go home and I used to put thick blankets and covers over my windows. And I used to cry to myself. I would be in darkness, pure darkness, because that's all I felt inside. I felt no light. I felt no joy, no bubbliness, none of that. I was done. I was emotionally drained. I was hurt. I was hurt. And my mom didn't know it because I didn't say anything. She didn't know I was getting bullied severely because I was also going through things at home. with my mom. My mom, disclaimer, my mom passed away 6 years ago, 2 days before Christmas. It was the worst day of my life. She was my best friend. I stuck by her. She had some health issues, and I stayed home. Oh, I moved back home, and I helped out. I learned different things on how to care for her. Um, so yeah, so we had overcome a lot of the things that we had went through when I was a teenager. My mom thought I was being rebellious, but I wasn't. I didn't like my stepdad. If he heard me say that today, he'd be like, "What? You didn't like me?" I'm like, "Dude, you know I didn't like you," because we're like this now. But I did not like my stepdad. There was a lot of things going on at home that was heartbreaking, and uh, I remember I wanted to take away my emotional pain, so I started causing myself physical harm. I started cutting my arms and my legs up. Wow. I started cutting my arms and my legs up until I couldn't feel anymore. I'd see blood running down my arms and everything. They hurt really bad when I snapped out of everything. And I still got the scars. I don't know if you can see them here, but it's been a while. I still got, they're all over here. They cleared up a lot. But yeah, I used to cut myself just to take away from the physical, like the pain that I was having, the emotional pain. I wanted to cause myself physical harm just to take away from everything that was going on. And so one night, my stepdad and I got into an argument, and emotionally, like the emotional things that were happening around me. I was mad, and I was, we were yelling back and forth at each other, and my mom got in the middle, and she tried to, like he was coming towards me, my mom tried to stop him, and he pushed her out the way, and she hit the floor. Like, he didn't mean to, I don't know, I'm just saying. I don't think he meant to, like, push her. I think he was just upset and trying to get at me. So he pushed my mom on the floor, and when she hit the floor, I got super mad. And I grabbed the lamp, and I mean, not a lamp, what do you call it? A plant. And I threw it at him, and he ducked. And that night, he put me out the house. I was 15. He put me out the house. And at the time, my mom really didn't have much of a say. Because, he was paying it was his house. He was paying the bills, things like that. Yeah, they were married. But at the time, she was dealing with beginner health issues, so she didn't have much of a say. So he put me out the house, and I became homeless at 15. Yep. For a couple months, I had nowhere to go. I was sleeping on people's couches, and I wasn't going to school. It was a lot going on. And my sister took me in finally, and I stayed at her home. Slept on the floor. I stayed at her home. I just felt out of place. It was really bad. And my mom called to check on me one day, and I told her everything that was happening. And the funniest thing, I didn't blame her. I wasn't mad at her. I was just like, you know what? Things happen. It's okay. Put me out. It's fine. I'll stay where I am. So anyway, so my mom was like, yeah, we're going to talk because I miss you, and I don't want you to be out there, and I want you to go to school, and I just want you to be okay. So I was like, okay. So we talked. After a few months, we talked, and my stepdad and all of us, we had a conversation, and we were able to kind of patch things up, and I was able to move back home. Things got a little bit tougher after that. I shut down all the way after that. I didn't know how I was going to get out of the mental state that I was in. I was depressed. I had major anxiety. It was bad. It was so bad. Cried every night. I didn't know what to do. So I ended up going back to school. And what happened was, I told you guys that I was shut down and I was sheltered. and they put me in special education classes because they said that I was, at the time they used the word that we can't use anymore, the retarded word. Um, and so at the time, which we call intellectual disability now, um, at the time they labeled me as that, and they put me in special education classes. I didn't speak to anybody. I barely did my work because I knew the work. I knew everything. I had this big, broad person inside of me. And they put me in those classes. And I wouldn't say anything. Until one day, a reporter came to school. She was doing a story, an interest piece on, children in school and special ed and things like that. And when she came to the school, I spoke to her. And she asked me questions, and I was very articulate. And I was the way she looked at me was like, why are you in special ed? And I was like, I was telling her all these things, and I told her why I was in there. And I said, instead of somebody taking time out with me, they just took me and dropped me in classes that weren't great for me, that didn't benefit me at all in my education and things like that. So that article came out, and the school was peed off. Everybody was mad, but the teachers was like, how dare she say that we don't take our time, and da-da-da-da. I was like, well, I wasn't talking about everybody. I just spoke on the truth and how I felt at the moment. There were so many kids that were misplaced that shouldn't have been. Very smart children. It just took a little bit of time that I'm not sure if their parents had or the teachers had. So anywho, I ended up becoming better. I did my work. I didn't care if anybody had anything to say. It was crazy. So I started writing. I started writing poetry. And my poetry was really dark, man. I mean, like, really dark. You'd be like, whoa, Brandy, the person you are today? I could not believe it. But for some odd reason, people liked it. People would come to me and be like, oh, I love your work, man. Your poetry is amazing. They started publishing it in school. So they would, my old high school still has it sitting up there. I visited them a couple months ago, and it's still, one of my poems is still up there. Anyway, so I was able to get out of special education, and I was able to get a real degree, a real high school diploma, versus they call it a special one. A special one means a special ed diploma. So I was able to get all my credits, and I made it, barely. I made it out, but I made it out. And I found my passion in high school. I'm sorry, let me go back. My first suicide attempt was when I was 15. Going through all that crazy stuff at home, being homeless, dealing with just a lot of things. My way out was always pills. If I wanted to go peacefully, I guess, because my life was already chaotic. My world was already crumbling. So if I wanted to go peacefully. So I found some pills, and I took them. And just so happened the pills weren't as lethal as I thought they were. But they had me hecka tired. And I was laying out on the floor with the pills in my hand and the bottle on the floor. And my mom came right in just as I was going out. And she was like, what's going on? I could hear her. What's going on? What's going on? You all right? You all right? What's happening? She looked at the floor. She saw the pills. She's like, oh my gosh, this girl did not. And I'm saying it like it's comedy, but you had to be there. It was very surreal. But she called the ambulance, and I was taken to the hospital. Of course, they held me because, when you try to commit suicide, they put you on like a 72-hour hold just to kind of like evaluate you, see what your mental state is, things like that. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. They didn't put me on any medication, but they did recommend that my mom seek professional help for me as far as counseling goes, and getting me on some type of medication. That didn't happen, which was whatever. It didn't happen. Again, we in the community didn't believe in therapy and all that stuff like that. My mom was like, it was just one of those things. Let's go to church, let's pray, we're gonna get this thing together. I was like, okay. That demon did not leave, honey. It carried. Remember I said at the beginning, every age that I became, it carried over and over. So, yeah, it carried into my adulthood. It sure did. Another time this happened, I was 17. And at this time, I became homeless again. I know. My stepdad, we had another issue and he put me out again. This time was actually longer than the first time. And I literally, at the time I was in high school, I was graduating and I had a car. And he put me out and I was sleeping in my car, in the park, in the parking lot of Walmart, anywhere that I can find. Um, yeah, I know. I ended up on one of my high school friends' couch, and she helped me get my first apartment. And I was sleeping in a park. I didn't have my car anymore after a while, and before I went to my friend's house, I was sleeping in the park at night. And I remember the security person come over. He's like, "Ma'am, you have to go. I'm sorry, you have to leave." And I'm like, "Where am I gonna go?" So I found myself just wandering in wee hours of the morning, just walking and not knowing where the heck I was going and where I was. And I found a Wawa. Always depend on Wawa, okay? Found a Wawa gas station, used the bathroom, washed my face and things like that. Walked out, walked until I found a Walmart. Walmart, they have so many cars and they have like a long parking lot, so you don't have to be afraid and things like that. So I did that, and I finally remembered one of my friends, and I reached out to her and I said, "Hey, I need help. I need you." And she's like, "What's wrong?" I was like, "I'm on the street right now." And she was like, "What?" She's like, "I cannot believe that." She's like, "What?" No. So she came to pick me up, and I slept on her couch for a little while. And I ended up getting a job with one of my church members. It was a daycare. She had a home daycare, and I had a job with her making like $250 a week. And so my friend whose couch I was on, she was like, "I want to help you." She was like, "There is this program where you can get into that you're able to get housing, and they can help you pay your utilities and things like that. All you would have to do is come up with the deposit." And I said, "Oh, cool." But it had a waiting list of like 3 months, and her house was getting crowded, and I couldn't stay there any longer. So when I was in high school, I had a friend. She was in the 9th grade. I was in the 12th, and we connected just like that. She became my little sister. And she was like, she asked her mom if I could come and live with them for a little while. Her mom did not hesitate. I knew her mom. I loved her mom. The best lady you would ever meet. Her spirit was so wonderful. Nice lady. She was like, "Yes, come stay with me. Come stay with me." When I was working at the daycare, I was able to get my car fixed. And so I had my car when I lived with them, and I stayed with her rent free. She didn't ask me for no money. She fed me. She didn't ask me to buy groceries or anything, because she understood what I was going through and where I was at the time. And so I stayed with them for 3 months. In that 3 months, she helped me get a better job. We were working at a factory together, and I had my car. I would drive my car. It was just like, and I always said this from that day to this day, I will never ever forget the generosity of the people who helped me. I was a young girl on the streets. Selling my body was not an option for me in my head and who I was inside of me. The low self-esteem, the body image issues, I could not even give anybody this body, okay? So that was not an option for me. But God saw me, and He sent people to help me. And I will never forget these people. And I always said that if I ever make it big and have money, I'm going to make sure that I take care of those people. Especially my friend or my little sister whose mom helped me out. As I was there, my apartment came through, and I was able to move in. My deposit was only $130. They gave me a utility check every month. and he helped me get my apartment. I was there for 3 years. In that 3 years, I met my fiance, my ex-fiance. I'm not going to prolong this, but I just wanted to be open about a lot of things, just to introduce you guys to who I am and how far I've come in my life. I haven't gotten into like really deep, in depth things because I promised to keep it a little bit PG. Not PG, but censored a little bit. But I'm giving you as much as I can right now, so you can get to know who I am. A lot of people know the bubbly version of me, but nobody know how far, what the things that I had to go through to get to this point. And so, so I met my fiance at a 7-Eleven while I was working as a DSP, direct support professional. We worked with people who had intellectual disabilities. So the people, similar to how I was portrayed in high school. Ironic, right? I was taking care of those people, and so I met my fiance at a 7-Eleven he was working at, and I just knew that he was the best thing for me in my life, honey. He was the first real boyfriend I ever had, first real man that I ever had. We did everything for the first time, shower together, do the horizontal, whatever you call it, horizontal rumble, whatever. We did this stuff for the first time. He was my first and everything, okay? And he saw me not as his woman, but he saw me as an opportunity. So remember when I said all those things, the body image issues and things like that carried into my adulthood? Yeah, it did. And so this man had a job, and I was working 3 jobs at the time. And I would get literally 5, 6, sometimes 10 minutes in between in between jobs. I would come home, sleep, get up, next job, shower, next job, whatever, and just like that. And so anything that he had ever asked me for, I always gave without a no, without a hesitation. He was from Africa, and he would send money home to his family. And the funniest part is, I was making like $6,000 every 2 weeks, or what have you, working 3 of my jobs. And so anyway, I got this man an apartment. I got him a car. Anything that he asked me for, I never said no. There's this stigma attached to plus size women, or big women, I should say. And the funniest thing is, I wasn't even that big. I was like, what? There's a stigma where we have low self-esteem, and that we do anything to keep a man or keep somebody happy. And the truth of the matter is, I hate to admit it, in some way that's true. Not the low self-esteem part, but because we are labeled as not good enough. We are labeled as being gross and unattractive because we're bigger. You understand? We are labeled in certain ways, and so people treat us that way. But also, people treat you how you allow them to treat you. You have to teach people how to treat you. And I didn't learn that until afterwards. So anywho, yes, this man, every dinner we went out to, I paid for everything. Every party we went to, I paid for everything. And the craziest part is, he wasn't with me. I thought he was, but he wasn't with me. His best friend asked me what I wanted for my birthday. And I told him, I want a proposal. Like, I'm in love. And I thought that this man was in love with me too. So, this man, I rented a car to go out of town for my birthday with him. And we went out of town. I paid for the hotel. I paid for everything. The food, the hotel, the car, everything. I paid for everything. He didn't pay for not one thing. And when we got there, he did propose to me over dinner that I cooked on my birthday. He did propose to me. And he told me that he didn't want me to tell anybody that we were engaged. Now, anybody who's listening to this, that's a major red flag, and that's a major no-no. Like, what's up with that, right? I'm happy. I want to tell everybody. I want to tell the world. I want to shout it to the rooftop. He said, don't tell anybody. Just not yet. I'm not ready for anybody to know. like, okay. So he was cheating. Well, he had other women. And the crazy part is, I didn't leave him at all. I was like, but I love you. I want you to stay. I don't want you to leave me. I accepted any and everything. Everything. He still asked me for money. I gave it to him. Until one day, first of all, I had to quit one of my jobs because I was too exhausted. Then another one of my jobs, the more paying one, they told me that the credentials, the qualifications had changed, so I couldn't work there anymore. I had to go to school to get a new, more qualified. And so I ended up losing my job, and I had the one that I was making $400, maybe $400 every 2 weeks. And on my last paycheck, he said to me, I'm sorry you lost your job. You still want to give me the money that I asked you for? I ended up giving him almost my whole paycheck. I only had $150 left on the bigger paying job. I only had $150 left. And he said to me, thank you, I love you, I appreciate it. So anywho, long story short, 2 days later, he called me and he said, I can no longer be in a relationship. He said, I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready for a relationship. Mind you, the ring that he had got me came with a pair of earrings. They both turned green. My finger was like forest green. They came from Sears. He bought them for $17. And he said to me, I cannot be in a relationship anymore. I don't want to be in a relationship anymore. But come to find out, he was messing with another woman at the same time. And she had just had a baby for him. So while we were together, he had another baby on me. He had a baby on me. And that's why he couldn't be with me anymore. Because he wanted to start a family with her. And the crazy part is, after that, he would call me and tell me, I should have never treated you like that. I should have stayed with you. She's taking all my money. And I said, wow. The irony. So that was the last time that I attempted suicide. And I'm not speaking for anybody else who's been through this. I'm speaking for me personally. I felt like every thing that happened to me in my life, that was my only way out versus hitting it head on and trying to heal and overcome, So that ended up happening. And I ended up becoming, he told me that I wasn't good enough. I wasn't attractive enough. So I tried to change. Even though he wasn't with me anymore, and even though he had a baby on me, I still wanted to be with him. I know, crazy. He was my first and everything. That was my excuse. But I love him. I gave him my stuff, my sacred box. I gave it to him. I opened it up and he took it. I can't be without him. I don't want to be without him. Oh my God, I'm tripping. I'm going crazy. What do? Suicide came to my mind. And everything that happened to me prior came rushing. I'm always going through stuff. Why me? Why this? Why me? I'm such a good person. Why is this happening to me? What do I do? How do I handle this? I don't know what to do. I'm losing my mind. And suicide just kept coming back. It just kept playing. I was like, everybody'd be better off if I wasn't here. So what I did was I wrote notes to my mom, my dad, all of my siblings, and my pastors, and I put them on my dining room table with rose petals all around them. Of course, I was dramatic. I put rose petals on the tables around the notes. And I want you guys to listen to me carefully when I tell you this. There is a major thing called divine intervention. I will never ever forget this. And there's been so much more happened to me. But I wanted to get to this part. This is where my life changed forever. After I wrote those notes and left them out on the table, I was in the hospital a couple weeks before because I was something happened to me at work, and I was in a lot of pain. So the doctor sent me home with pain meds. Was Percocet, and I had like 13 pills left. And man, okay. I sat in the middle of my living room floor in the dark. It was nighttime. In the middle of my living room floor, on my knees, and I was bawling, crying, and crying out to God to help me, crying out to God to change everything around me, crying out for help. The funniest part is, even in the midst of me wanting or trying to take my own life, I still begged and pleaded for help. Because if the Lord was going to change something for me, it had to happen in that moment. Okay? I had the glass of water in one hand and the pills in another. Mind you, again, it was dark. I don't know if it was my brothers. I don't know who it was or what it had to be the Holy Spirit, because let me explain to you what happened to me. As I went to put the pills in my mouth, the glass of water fell out of my hand. And I'm like, and it was as if somebody just knocked it out of my hand. It wasn't me. It knocked it out of my hand, and it freaked me out so bad. So bad. I threw the pills on the floor. I jumped up and turned the light on, looking around to see if somebody was there. I didn't see anybody. I hit the floor. And I got into a fetal position, and I cried. I cried all... excuse me, y'all. 1 second. I'm sorry, y'all. But I cried. I was in a fetal position, and I was on the floor, and I cried until morning. I had the biggest headache. My eyes were puffy, red. I mean, it was just a lot going on. And I called my mom the next day, and I told her what had happened. And she said, baby, I will never forget. She said, you tried to leave me again? And not just her words, but the incident. It sparked something inside. It sparked something inside. And I knew I needed help. I wanted to change. I wanted help. I wanted to be different. I wanted to be better. I didn't want to be sad anymore. I didn't want to be depressed anymore. I didn't want to cry anymore. I didn't want to hurt anymore. I just wanted to end my pain. But I knew I needed help. So I reached out to my doctor at the time, and she recommended me to a therapist. And I was with him for 3 years, that therapist, and it helped to talk about it. But it wasn't just the therapy, the professional therapy. I had to go through spiritual counseling as well, because I was battling spiritually and mentally. And I reached out for help. And I'm gonna be honest with you. It was one of the hardest things that I ever done, because I didn't want people to know how crazy I was. I didn't want people to know how bad off I was, because I always hid behind a smile. I always hid behind my bubbliness. I always hid who I was, and I was always happy. And I was always like joyful and jolly. But inside I was hurting. I was burning up. I was angry. I was in such a dark place. The darkness just was taking over my insides. But I had to reach out for help. I had to start healing. So I was single for 9 years. For those, after my ex-fiance, for those 9 years, I got help. I was in therapy, both spiritually and physical, professionally. I got help. And in that 9 years, as I was getting help, God birthed something inside of me. And I remembered the poetry that everybody loved that I used to do. And I remember that when I was acting, it took me away from the reality, pretending to be somebody else. Acting. It took me away from the reality. Because I used to get in the mirror and talk to myself like I was the people who was offending me. On the other side of the mirror, those were the bad people, and I was me. And I would get in the mirror and I would talk to them, and I would tell them how I felt, even though I couldn't. I wasn't brave enough to tell them in person, right? So long story short, I keep saying that. Longer story short, I paid to go to acting school, and it was one of the best decisions that I could have ever made. So while I was healing spiritually and professionally getting counseling, I wanted to also help myself. So I went to acting school, and my acting professor, he was like, "You are amazing." What he didn't know was that everything that I portrayed on stage and in class was real stuff. It was real pain. I drew from it, and I became the characters. A lot of my acting is emotional. It's very dramatic. I can do some funny stuff too, but a lot of my acting came from my pain. Okay, so he recruited me to join his theater company, and it was amazing. We went on tour. We did different plays, things like that. It was awesome. I became a stage manager. It was just wow, and it sparked something in me to do my own thing.
Emotional damage.
Really? It sparked something in me to do my own thing, and so that's how my acting came about. And I would write my own plays, stage plays, and I would do different things like we would help the community, do plays to raise money to help the community, help incarcerated inmates who were falsely accused of things and got out of prison. Like, we would do things in the community, feed the community, just have different venues and things going on, different parties like that. It was really cool. And then in 2015, I wrote my first short film. It was called The Color of Pain. It drew from everything that I had experienced, and it was a film dedicated to young children, elementary school and high school. It was called The Color of Pain because I remember when I told one of my family members that I was having a lot of pain, like I was dealing. I don't know if I mentioned it, but I told them that I was depressed and I was dealing with some things, and I felt suicidal. I told them that. And their response to me was like, "Girl, what the heck? We don't do that. We don't do that." That's what I heard. And I shut down, and I didn't say anything else to anybody else. Nothing. At all. I just dealt with it by myself. And so my response to her was, what color do you have to be to feel pain? What color do you have to be to hurt inside? And that's where the title for my first movie came about, called The Color of Pain. Anywho, so after that, we had a red carpet event, and it was amazing. Like, I mean, God was just so into everything, was just like falling into place. And I told the Lord, I said, "Lord, I'm grateful." At this time, I still was overcoming, but I was a lot better than I was. No more suicidal thoughts. Like, I was able to channel that into something positive. Like, it was amazing. And you know what's even crazier? The fact that what made me feel good was helping other people, making them feel good, you know? So, also in 2013, I my sister helped me develop my own motivational speaking company. And I took some courses and different things like that, and I became a motivational speaker. And one of my main topics was bullying and suicide prevention. As the years went on, or what have you, after I, finally was out of that state and overcame. And in my speaking engagements, I spoke to colleges, church summits, youth summits. Like, I mean, it was amazing. Rooms packed out. Like, I mean, it was one of those surreal things, because I'm like, whoa, I came from this to that. What the heck? I came from holding my head down, not wanting to see people's faces because I was afraid of what they was going to say to me, how they was going to speak to me, what they were going to do to me, to speaking to a whole audience of people, telling them my story, encouraging them, telling them how to be better, how to do better, but also being transparent and letting them know that I was still on my journey for better, to better. And so I ended up, so after while I had my motivational speaking company, I was doing a bunch of other things. I had wrote my first book. That one was about my mom's life, dealing with domestic violence and drug abuse. It was, yeah, her story is, woo, crazy, but yeah. So in that time, everything was going well. And I asked the Lord, I said, God, you have got things going so well for me. I said, but one thing I really, really desired, when I was ready, when it was time, when I felt good, and I felt like an overcomer, finally, I asked God to send me a husband. And I said, not just any man. I need the man that you have for me. So I was specific. I got a notepad and I wrote down everything, honey. Everything I wanted in that man. From the chocolateness to the muscles and the angel wings. That's what we call that's what I call my husband's, like, muscles up here. I'm like, the angel wings. I'm like, I want everything. I want the whole package. I want a man that's gonna love you, that's gonna love me like I love him, that's not gonna abuse me, that's not gonna misuse me, that's not gonna cheat on me, that's not gonna have babies on me. Like, I want a good man, a real man. And I prayed over that note. But as I was praying over that note, as I was waiting for God to send me that man, I had to work on myself. I became a gym beast. I was working out 5 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week, 2 times a day, sometimes 3 times a day. I was doing cardio, kickboxing, mixed fit, Zumba. I was doing everything. All the classes at night. In the morning, I would get on the treadmill and I would go for hours. Running, lifting my weights, everything. I was amazing, okay? I was like, woo, girl, yes. I was a gym beast, guys. Like, I looked good, okay? So, anywho, 3 months later, I met my husband. And a lot of people, I never told this story before, publicly. But I met my husband online. And my mom had an accident. She was in dialysis and she had an accident where she fell off the lift truck. And she heard all of this, like it was meat showing everywhere. And she had got her settlement back. And I was like, Mom. She was like, baby, what do you want? I said, I want a husband. And she was like, well, I can't get that for you, honey. What you want? And I said, well, I'm about to join this site called eHarmony. I said, it's like $250 for the membership. She was like, okay. And she gave me the money. And I was like, wow, okay. And so I joined the website. Didn't get any hits or anything like that. But at this time, I was fit, looking good, feeling great in my body. And didn't get any hits. And then I ended up asking for a refund, get my money back. Within like the first week, I'm like, give me my money back. So I had my money back. And I joined one of the free sites. Yeah, a lot of people probably wouldn't join this site today. It's become crazy. But OkCupid. And I had I went on a couple dates and things like that. And I'm like, nah, this ain't it. No way, no sir, no how. These are not it. These are total toads. Like, I'm good. So the moment I stepped back and I was about to delete my account, I had 35 messages from guys. And my husband was one of them. And all he said was, he didn't give me no lines, no pickup lines, no nothing. He was like, hey. And I was like, hey? Ugh. Usually I do not respond to those. And I wasn't going to. And I went to look at his profile and he had side face pictures and I'm like, what the, how you gonna talk? What drew me was his profile. What it said, because his profile was similar to mine. I'm looking for a godly woman. I'm looking for this. I was like, oh, this brother is specific, just like me. Okay, God. Let's go. All right. Okay. So I responded, hey, how are you? He's like, hey, and we started talking. And the funniest thing is, him and my mom, I mean, not him and my mom, as the days went by, he would text me, hey, I hope you had something to eat. I hope you're okay. Make sure you rest. And he was so caring and loving. And I'm like, yo, if he can be like this over the computer or the cell phone, the internet, I wonder how he is in person. I did not know that this man was in Jamaica. I thought he was in America. I never even looked at where he was from. I was like, so when I finally looked a couple days later, I told my mom, he's in Jamaica. Like, what the heck? She was like, and I was like, I'm not talking to him. Oh no, I am not about to. I don't want to talk to a foreigner. I was like, I don't know what his intentions are. That was me. My mind at the time was young, naive, and very immature. I said, I don't know what his mind is. No, my mom was like, Brandy, you never know what God has for you. She said, don't count him out just yet. Give him a chance. And I was like, but he's all the way there. She said, give him a chance. I said, okay. So anyway, I gave him a chance. We talked every day. Him and my mom talked like they were besties. They were like this. It was weird. My mom even cried one time. He was like, you my favorite son. And I'm like, Mom, you don't even know him. So this is the story of how I met my husband. Really quickly. My husband and I was talking for a couple months, via the internet. And it was my turn. It was my option to go to Jamaica to see him and to visit him. After talking to his family, meeting his family, his mom and dad over video and stuff like that. We talked, and my mom talked to his family, and we all felt comfortable and things like that. My church family, they did not like this. Because I grew up in that church, from when I moved to Virginia. I grew up in that church, so everybody was family to me. And I was family to them. So they did not like this. They was like, oh no, we don't want nothing to happen to you. Like, this is crazy. You're out of your mind type of thing. And I'm like, but I talked to God. And I prayed for this man. And I'm going to continue to pray and seek out God while I'm on this journey with him, just to see where it's going to go. If it's not meant to be, it's not going to be. Okay? So I trusted God the whole way. And this man physically was everything that I asked God for in that note that I prayed over and fasted over, okay? I didn't know the depth of everything just yet. So long story short, I ended up, it was my birthday, and I didn't have the money, excuse me, to pay for my ticket to Jamaica, to pay for that. I didn't know I needed a passport. I didn't know any of this stuff. So I had never been out of the country before. Guess what happened? I went and applied for a passport. They said it was going to come within 4 to 6 weeks. I prayed. It came within 2 weeks. I got my passport. And I didn't have the money for the tickets. And I was like, what am I going to do? Like, I need the money for the ticket. Didn't have not one thing. So all the people that were against me going were the people that aided in getting me the money for my ticket. They didn't know it. It was crazy how God worked this out. But they were like, so my sister, one of them, she was like, hey, B, I haven't given you anything for your birthday. Come to the office. I'm going to give you a check. I was like, oh, okay. So I went to my sister's office, and she said, here. She handed me a check. My ticket was $500. She handed me a check for $150. As I was walking out, my brother-in-law said, hey, did she give you the money? I said, yeah. He said, how much? I said, $150. He was like, that's it? He was like, do you need any more? He was like, come back. So he tore that one up, and he told my sister to give me $250. He wrote a check for $250. I was like, okay, I'm halfway there. I was like, I'm halfway there. So I told my grandma, I said, Grandma, I was like, can I borrow $100? And she was like, well, since I haven't given you anything in a while, I'm going to give you this 100. I'm not going to let you borrow. You can have it. And I said, so at this point I had $350. Friday was my birthday. I had a birthday party at Applebee's. I had got a whole bunch of cards. And that money, it equaled up to an extra $300. My stepdad gave me money for my birthday as well, and I ended up having almost $1,000. I had way more than I needed. And I said, and I looked up and I was like, Lord, is this you? I was like, if it's you, send me a sign. Like, it's funny how you ask God for stuff, but you're not sure if you're gonna get it, but you ask him because you want it. You gotta believe these things will happen if you're gonna ask for something. You gotta have faith and knowing that these things are gonna work out, right? So anyway, I ended up the weekend before I was supposed to go to Jamaica. I went out with my family to dinner. My ID went missing out of my wallet. I was freaking out. My husband was at the time. He was my boyfriend or what have you. At the time, we all was freaking out. He's like, empty your purse. He's on the camera trying to looking for my ID with me. So I had to hurry up and because I thought I needed my ID to go overseas. I hurried up and ordered a new ID online. It wasn't going to get here for 7 days. I said, oh no, what am I going to do? So I remembered I had my passport, which is a government issued ID. I didn't know that at the time. I was like, okay. So the night before I went to Jamaica, I went to the grocery store to get some knickknacks and stuff for the plane, the flight, in the airport. So when I went to the ATM machine to get all my money off my card, my wallet was gone out of my purse. Yeah. I called the store that I was in, and I was crying so hard. My mom was like, Lord, help my baby, help my baby. And I called the store. They said they didn't see anybody on the camera take it. Then they called me back and said they saw somebody on the camera take it. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So I called my sister who was supposed to take me to the airport that morning. I'm like, somebody stole my purse. I don't know what I'm going to do. But look, earlier that morning, something in my head, and I believe it was the Lord, told me to take my passport out of my wallet and put it in my suitcase. So even though all of my money that was in my wallet, over $400 was in my wallet, even though that was stolen, my passport, the thing I needed to get to Jamaica, was still in my suitcase. So my sister, I told my sister, somebody stole my wallet, but I forgot that after we left the store and before we went to the ATM machine, we stopped at my sister's house. But I left my purse in the car and I went outside of the car, and my sister was standing there talking to my parents. A friend of mine called me the night before I went to Jamaica, and she said, don't go to Jamaica, something's going to happen to you. She said, the Lord revealed to me that something's going to happen to you, something bad. Don't go. And I said, well, the Lord didn't tell me that. He told me something totally different. I said, he told me that it was meant for me to go. Because I asked him if it was meant for me to meet Justin and to go and see Justin, to let my passport come faster than 4 weeks, and it came in 2 weeks. I said, if it was meant for me to meet Justin, let me get the money for my plane ticket. If it's meant for me to meet Justin, let everything go according to plan. Listen, there was a sidetrack where things didn't go the way that they were supposed to, because my wallet and my ID was gone at this time. So my husband was like, just get here, I will take care of you. I got the money, I got everything. Just get here and I'll take care of you. So my mom said, here's my card. Go to the ATM machine and get $200. That's all you need, right? I said, yeah. She said, that's what you get then. She said, go ahead. I said, okay. So the next morning, my oldest sister and her husband picked me up and brought me to the airport. They were hugging me and everything. Got to Jamaica, was freaking out, super nervous, shaking and everything. Got to Jamaica, walked out the terminal, and the first person who ran up to me was my husband's sister. She was crying and hugging me. Oh my God, I can't believe you're here. And she was like, there's your boo. So I'm sorry, this part always makes me blush, and it's giddy. So when his sister moved out the way, my husband was standing there looking like this chocolate, strong, like yummy looking man. So he looked at me and he just picked me up and was swinging me all around the place and just kissing me, and I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, I felt like it felt like a fairy tale. Okay. So we're walking to the car, and this man is just like shaking, his hands sweating, like he's nervous too. Couldn't even open the door for me, but it was just like a whirlwind romance. And We did end up getting engaged, and it was like one of the best things, the best experiences that I've ever had in my life. And this was one of the reasons, one of the things that elevated my faith. My faith was already strong, but it elevated my faith because I trusted God the whole way. And I met my husband, and my mom bought my wedding dress early December. She bought my wedding dress, and I said yes to the dress in David's Bridal. And my mom bought the dress, and it needed some alterations and things like that. And so a couple weeks later, my mom ended up passing away. And my husband was always telling her, I can't wait for you to dance with you at our wedding. She was in a wheelchair at the time. He said, I can't wait to dance with you at our wedding. And my mom ended up passing away a couple weeks after she bought my wedding dress. And that was the worst moment of my life. Everything inside of me just broke. But I'm going to be honest. I thank God for my husband, because if it had not been for my husband being by my side and being with me, and he was in my husband's side, being with me in that moment, I would have crashed and burned. So, whew, anywho. So I told you guys a whole lot about me within an hour and a half. Wow, I talked a long time, man. But I'm grateful for you guys who are here, who listened, who stayed in. I saw a bunch of people come in and out, so yeah, that's pretty cool. Thank you guys. But yeah, so my husband and I got married the next year, and it was amazing. Got married in Jamaica. A lot of family couldn't make it, but those who could came, and friends who came. It was phenomenal. And a lot of people don't know this, but my husband migrated from Jamaica 3 years ago. Yeah, he joined me over here in little old America. He's not happy about it because he's been trying to get me to go to Jamaica, but I'm like, nah. But this is my home. This is what I know. So he came. He made the sacrifice, and he's here. And God has been really good to us. We're praying for our bundle of joy, our baby, to stick. A lot of you know that I mentioned the miscarriage last couple months ago. So, so that's kind of our heart's desire, to get things going. But yes, so God, with all of the pain and the problems that I had, that I went through, God turned all of those things into passion, into gold. And I found my calling in them. I'm a motivational speaker, my writing, my acting, and just encouraging people, and just being a light to those who feels like their light is out. You understand? I know that feeling. I've been there. It broke me many times, or tried to break me many times. But somehow, some way, by the grace, I kept getting up. And I kept getting up. And I didn't know how, but I did. And this is the person that you see today. I'm better. I'm stronger. I'm a lot wiser. And I am not perfect. I have many flaws. But I pride myself in keeping the character that I have. That means loving on people. That means being a light whenever I can. That means being an advocate for different things. That means being able to spread love and joy. I have true joy now over happiness. And having true joy is what we need in a world that's so chaotic and so crazy. And so on this, I suffered with my thyroid. Actually, I didn't know it, but I've been suffering my thyroid my whole life. And I recently not recently, as of 3 years ago, found out about my thyroid. And it was misdiagnosed as anxiety. even though the blood work showed that I had thyroid conditions. And I got really sick. And I was on my deathbed. I looked like Skeletor. I wasn't eating. I wasn't drinking. I could barely walk. I could barely move. My eyes were blurry. I had so much pain in every part of me. My heart rate was out of control. I was dying. And it took one trip to the OBGYN to change all of that. I have my days. They're not always super bubbly and super happy like you guys see me all the time. Because sometimes I'm in pain. I'm in remission. But I still have the antibodies. And with those antibodies, sometimes my body reacts. And some days I'm in pain. Some days I can barely move. Today was one of those days. But I knew I had to get on here tonight and to talk to you guys so you guys can get to know me, so that we can chat and love on each other. I thank you so much for being a part of this journey that I'm on, the weight loss journey that I'm on. To be honest with you, it hasn't been easy, but it's been worth it. And I'm grateful for everybody who's taken the leap with me, who's encouraging me. So every day, every victory that I have, that I post about, that I say non-scale victory, this and this fits this and this happened, this, it's a blessing in itself. Because 8 months ago, I don't know where we are, last year in July, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't move, let alone breathe better. I had so many problems. But I'm a lot better. And I feel good. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you guys for being a part of my whole journey. Not just with the weight loss, but letting me encourage you. Letting me be on here to shed some love and some light to you. I pray that in my story, in the things that I share with you tonight, that you found some peace somewhere in there, in your own lives, in your own stories, and the things that you've encountered or is going through right now. I pray for better days for you. I pray for continued good days for me. I thank you so much for joining my live and being here tonight. There's a lot of things that I shared with you guys tonight that I don't think I really got in depth with anybody. So you've seen I've shared a part of me tonight that I'm really happy and relieved about. Sometimes it helps to share things with people. And God revealed to me a long time ago that the things that I went through wasn't to break me, wasn't to kill me. It was lessons that I had to learn to help other people who were going through the same things that I went through. So I pray that this live has blessed you just as much as it blessed me telling and talking about it. I love you guys so much. Stay blessed. Have an amazing night. And continue to live your purpose on purpose with purpose. God bless you. Bye, guys.